All right, let's get into things right now. So you may have noticed today that a country is now in the very safe hands of what feels like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people who have now been signed in to the new ministry of Anthony Albanese. There they were, posing for the photo that in 2 years' time we'll be able to compare with the reshuffles and who's there and who's not. Now, of course, this was declared by the media today to be historic. Did you hear that word a few times? Historic, historic. But something that you have not heard is I want to go through who is now actually running the country. Let's focus on the cabinet. There are 32 people that are inside the cabinet. Can we have a look at the diversity, please, on screen now, of the great diversity of... Okay, but still, that is the 23 people that are in Albo's cabinet. Just save that one for, woke bingo in the next little while. Now, interestingly, though, I wanted to tell you the backgrounds of these people. Now, I went on their own bios that are available on the Parliament House website, linked to by Albo today, okay? So not a far right-wing think tank. I didn't go Googling in the shallow end of the internet. This was what they have front and centre about their history. How many of them worked for a union? Of the 23, 10 worked for a union. How many of the 23 ended up being in there? Well, I can tell you, 13 were ones who had worked as political staffers of the 23 or whatever it is that are currently there as the actual cabinet. But then what about this question? How many of the 23 people that they have in their cabinet has run their own business? Answer, 2. Now, Tony Burke doesn't have it on his bio, but he does on his own website that he claims that he ran a small business. I don't know which one, but good luck to him. But the bloke who brings the business expertise to the Australian government is Senator Don Farrell. You see, Senator Don Farrell was able to launch a business while being a senator. It was a wine label that has his own name in it. He was a senator, but he started his own business. He was the founder of Farrell Wines in the Clear Valley of South Australia from 2014 to 2016. That is the sum total of the private sector that is now at the heart of the Australian government. I don't know about you, I feel great. I feel like these people understand small business. They are going to understand what it is like to pay everyone else but not yourself. They will understand what it is like to have the rules that apply to the biggest businesses in the country having to affect the smallest businesses in the country. These are the people who understand what it is like, that the only way you get a pay rise is to get up earlier and go to bed late. Of course not. What they are expert at is government. Increasingly, they are expert at the politics of government. We've seen this at the state level used very successfully by Labor. Look at how they've been able to survive forever in Queensland, where this system basically takes you from a young up-and-comer in university through to the political staffer via a union, turns you into a backbench MP and eventually makes you, if the factions like it, a minister of the state or Commonwealth. Now, it's a very good system to build politicians, but it's a particularly closed one when it comes to real-world experience. Now, in fairness, Michelle Rowland does have on her parliamentary bio that she was a checkout chick for a few years. And there are some people who worked for a legal firm here or there, but essentially they are creatures of politics, of government. And that means that they might be great at regulating, but they're not great at doing, at living. This is where the rubber hits the road, because it's one thing to be good at the politics, but if you can't actually understand a sector that employs millions of people, then you are not going to be able to service them. No one is going to sit around a Labor cabinet table and come up with things like instant asset write-offs that I know firsthand from the small business people in my family and my mates saved businesses in the past couple of years. No one is going to be sitting around talking about unfair dismissal legislation. As Peter quite correctly pointed out earlier tonight, that about 10% of people who have the choice to join a union actually do. Just 1 in 10 workers is actually a member of a union, but every member of the cabinet, the outer ministry and the parliamentary secretaries have a connection to the union movement. Yet these are the same people who are of the stock that in Queensland turn around and change electoral funding laws so that the union movement, of which they are a member, of which they are the political arm of, are treated as independent entities when it comes to election spending. Katie Gallagher told us earlier in the week that she wants caps on the amount that can be spent at an election. All of this is under the cover of pretending it's about stopping Clive Palmer. But what it ends up being is the union movement in places like Queensland being able to outspend any political opponent 23-1. You see, the entire union movement isn't one independent entity. Every single union is its own separate independent entity. So think about that as a way of stacking the deck, the way of pushing an election in the direction that you want. That literally in places like Queensland, there are laws about how many signs you can put up. 1 versus 23. We are about to have some very serious economic headwinds. We all know that. But the idea that people who have never run a business, with the exception of one bloke who said he ran one at some point in time and another who started his own wine label, they don't have any knowledge of what it is like to actually run a business. So for all the historics we heard today, for all the diversity that they're going to celebrate, what does it say? Remember in the old days where they used to have a go at a government because it only had one female member in its ministry? What about a government that only has 2 people at the heart of it who've ever actually run a business?